change in every stride. Let's celebrate, let people see community's heart, a legacy, honoring those who lead the way for a strong and insightful day. Collective efforts, hands held tight, shaping a future bold and bright. From every corner, from every heart, community service is where it starts. Let's celebrate, let people see community's heart, a legacy, honoring those who lead the way for a strong and insightful
Forward-thinking leaders, the path they do blaze. With wisdom and grace, they pave the way. The leaders inspire, talents that bind, relevance maintain, pioneers are gained. Forward thinkers shaping our time, innovation symphony in its prime. We honor those who dare to dream big, challenge norms with a mighty dig. Innovation's flame shining bright, guiding generations day and night. In their stories, the power is seen. Dreamers stand tall, defying limits between. The leadership shines, a legacy song. Lessons of courage, forward thinkers belong. Forward thinkers shaping our time, innovation symphony in its prime. We honor those who dare to dream big, challenge norms with a mighty dig. Innovation's flame shining bright, guiding generations day and night. Bridges they build, their visions are filled. Their leaders they inspire, their impact soars high. Forward thinkers shaping our time, innovation symphony in its prime. We honor those who dare to dream big, challenge norms with a mighty dig. Innovation's flame shining bright, guiding generations day and night. Forward thinkers, leaders of grace, leaving a mark in this boundless space.
In a special place where knowledge reigns, educational leadership guiding lanes, we will celebrate the shared quest. Education and cooperation at their best. older and young, unite with hands held high, supporting growth that touches the sky. Education is a compass that's strong, guiding the way for minds for so long. In the heart of education's domain, together we foster, grow, and gain. From classrooms to corridors, it's clear. Corporate hands extend year after year, empowering minds to reach new heights. All of us learning where wisdom ignites. Talent and skill echo corporate's call, pointing to education for one and all. Education is a compass that's strong, guiding the way for minds for so long. In the heart of education's domain, together we foster, grow, and gain. Boardrooms and classrooms are entwined, a promise to nurture, legacy defined, supporting young minds to spread their wings, because in learning we can do many things, yeah. Education is a compass that's strong. Yes it is, yes it is. Guiding the way for minds for so long. In the heart of education's domain. Heart of education's domain. Together we foster, grow, and gain.
Heroes in classrooms guiding through endless possibilities for me and you. Student leaders who inspire and give back will continue to be on the right track. Student leaders, a resounding praise for lighting the path in diverse ways. Leaders of now and leaders to be. Our country thanks you, it's plain to see. Not just teachers, but mentors of soul, nurturing minds to reach all their goals. A path illuminated, the path shows the next generation to bravely grow. Student leaders, a resounding praise for lighting the path in diverse ways. Leaders of now and leaders to be. Our country thanks you, it's plain to see. Because they are leaders of change, rising above to that higher plane. Student leaders, they are smart and kind. They teach their peers how to use their minds. Student leaders, a resounding praise for lighting the path in diverse ways. Leaders of now
In their brilliance we find our way, embracing the future, come what may. Intelligence and eloquence say why for the innovations and what they try. Outstanding tech contributions today for strength and creativity. Find a way. In the face of challenges, they soared. Their impact and legacy adored. Profound impact, all that they share. The boundless reach, a world they repair. With tech inventions, they rise above, pushing the boundaries with a future love. Exceptional products, systems that work, intellectual marvels that are artwork. In the face of challenges, they soared. Their impact and legacy adored. Profound impact, all that they share. The boundless reach, a world they repair. With every breakthrough, they show the way. In virtual reality or light of day, testament to innovation for all to be. Human potential on blank canvases to see. In the face of challenges, they soared. Their impact and legacy adored. Profound impact, all that they share. The boundless reach, a world they repair.
Two sides of a coin, they beautifully blend. Professional achievements, not following trends. Narratives of success, they beautifully bind. To discover a new way in their hearts and mind. Hearts and mind. Distinct yet connected, as sisters they stand. Professional achievements, a lifetime's plan. Projects, initiatives, silence of triumphs and milestones. This is their fate. Enduring excellence, a journey wide, a professional's path with each stride. Many contributions shaping the field, the impact of accomplishments we feel. Distinct yet connected, as the
sisters, they stand. Professional achievements, a lifetime's plan. Projects, initiatives, talents of fame, of triumphs and milestones. This is their fate. Early in their life, the work has begun. Rising to the occasion, each milestone won. A recognition of hard work is at the base for the larger picture in this special place. This special place. Distinct yet connected, as sisters they stand. Professional achievements, a lifetime's plan. Projects, initiatives, talents of fame, of triumphs and milestones. This is their fate. Without these achievements, where would be? They provide a better future and set minds free. The president's lifetime achievement is grand, marked by the contributions they planned. Dedication to pushing the edge, positive changes they will always pledge. A life's work, it's profound and it's grand, a lasting impact with diversity's hand. They have a kind of luminary soul, a lifetime achievement, not really their goal. It's guiding our journey through countless days for a better tomorrow in every way. Groundbreaking research, wisdom's flow. In every step, a legacy to show. Through storms and winds, their spirit soars, improving lives, unlocking doors. Improving lives, unlocking doors. They have a kind of luminary soul, a lifetime achievement, not really their goal. It's guiding our journey through countless days standing by the hour. Decades of recognition, changes we've known, challenges and innovation in every song. Honor we stand as beacons, guiding light, facing the unknown, fighting the good fight. Fighting the good fight. With tales captivating, they'll inspire us all. Lighting a fire, breaking down every wall. Lessons learned, lives dance intertwined. In this vibrant journey, success they've defined. Decades of recognition, changes we've known, challenges and innovation in every song. Honor we stand as beacons, guiding light, facing the unknown, fighting the good fight. Fighting the good fight.
Hello, good morning. Is this on? Yes. Good morning. Just make sure that everyone that is attending today's presentation, that you do scan in at the door. So please, 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 please do that. And then if you're going to exit the same way, you have to scan out, is my understanding, just so that we can account for today's attendees. So thank you so much.
Andy, you have two phones?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so that one was on the floor.
Oh, I dropped it.
Okay.
Good morning, Andy. I'm Eric Trace.
Oh, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Dive into the current, take the lead. Break the barriers, plant the seed. In stems vast ocean, we find our way. A symphony of pine
I don't know about all that.
and to stay. Tides are turning, feel the motion. The waves are rising like the ocean. With open minds and open hearts too, we'll shape a world that's diverse and new. Waves of change, they come crashing in. It's where it starts, where it begins. In the world of science, taking math, we rise together on this perfect path. Ooh. From pixels to particles, equations to art, every mind's a universe, a world to chart. Collaboration as a guiding star. We conquer challenges no matter how far. Breaking down walls, glass ceilings to shatter. Creating a world where inclusion matters. For women of color, the stage is yours.
you the picture.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Just some housekeeping. I know I shared this earlier, but if you have not scanned your badge, please go ahead and do so at the door. And then as well, we have a nice group here, but we always welcome everyone to kind of come up front and so that you can get the most out of the presentation today. But again, welcome to today's session, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Andy Lee Gonzalez. I'm a pediatric medical science liaison for Abbott Nutrition, and I'll be the moderator for today's session, Authenticity, Embracing Your True Self as a Leader. You may read my bio in the conference app, so if you haven't already downloaded the app, please go ahead and do so, and look for the Career Communications Group app and download it if you haven't already done so. So the presentation of this session today, or the presenter, I'm sorry about that, is Sandhya Christian. She is the Director in Business Integration at HII and is joined by the following panel member, Patricia Coons-Wallace, and she is a Technical Project Manager at IBM Corporation. As I mentioned earlier, the full bios of each of today's panel members can be found in the conference app. This and all the Women of Color seminars are live presentations. They will also be recorded and posted within 24 hours for on-demand use. For continuing education units or PDH, please, at the end of the session, click on the link in your seminar session to be able to apply for these educational units. The session today, Authenticity, Embracing Your True Self as a Leader, will explore the authenticity paradox in the workplace. We'll learn to lead authentically and identify practical ways to embody authenticity in your leadership role. There's a few objectives that we'll review together with our wonderful expert that is joining us today. We'll be able to differentiate between constructive and detrimental authentic behaviors, identify the core values and understand the influence of leadership actions, establish trust and transparency in your team and as an authentic leader while navigating the authenticity paradox, and then cultivate a team that embraces individual and collective strengths and authenticity. So now it's my pleasure to be able to present our speaker today, Sandhya Christian. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Andy. And Patricia. It's just good to be here this morning. As we think about authenticity and what it means to be authentic, can anyone tell me their definition of being authentic? What does that look like? I know it's early. Being honest, being your true self. Anyone else? Leading with your heart. Awesome. Anyone else? Being genuine. Oh, yes. Yes. I knew you were coming. Being self-aware. So today I just want to talk very briefly because there is a presentation and it will be put on the web, on the app. But I want to get into the conversation because I think the conversations are more impactful. But I will go ahead and go through the presentation pretty quickly. So we've done that. Andy talked about the learning objectives. So the essence of authentic leadership. Somebody said, be true to yourself, embracing one's uniqueness, leading with genuine values and principles, staying honest. Those are all characteristics of an individual or a person that embodies the essence of authentic leadership. And when we think about children, when they are born and they start to go to kindergarten and they play with one another, they have the purest of hearts. They're authentic until somebody taints that, right? They don't mind. They don't care what color you are. They just if they like you, they like you. If you're the friend, you're the friend. How many of you saw a couple of years ago the African American boy and the Caucasian boy running and embracing each other? They were authentic. They were authentically friends and they loved one another. It's not until we get into this thing called life and we start cultivating friendships and family members that have negativity that causes us to get into a realm of being unauthentic. I'm going to put that in Webster. I'm going to go ahead and write them. But the key today is to understand the essence of authentic leadership is being yourself. Now, are you going to take your pajamas self to work when you put your business suit on? No, that's not what it means. But it does mean that some form of you are taking everywhere you go. Now, if you're talking to your cousin on the phone or y'all doing FaceTime, or you're going to have the same conversation with them that you have on Microsoft Teams at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, probably not. But being yourself is who you need to be. Because a lot of times we try to change to morph into, I call it chameleonism. That's another one I'm going to turn in. But a lot of times we want to be a chameleon, we want to fit in. But you are you. How many of you have a twin? Okay, I got two. Three.
Andy is a twin.
I'm a twin.
Andy, you're a twin.
Yeah.
Does your twin act like you? Does he or she look like you? Okay. Even though you may be twins, you still have an authenticity that only describes you. And that's what we have to understand. The missing piece to the puzzle when you were out of the room in the conversation at work just got answered when you walked in because they were missing you. So, we talked a little bit in the objectives about what is constructive versus destructive behavior. This is, I don't know what's going on up here, but it's getting to me. I want to move. Can I come down? Would y'all be able to hear me? Thank you.
Is this possible?
So we talk about constructive versus destructive behavior. What does that mean? What is constructive? When you're talking about being authentic, positive, useful, helpful, adding value.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
But my point is, when we're doing these things that are constructive, it makes the workplace better. It makes our relationships better. And as women, we tend to go on the negative a lot of times. We tend to we deconstruct ourselves. We just destroy ourselves sometimes in our relationship by our attitude. And that is one of the things that, we don't need to get into this thing of she's here and I'm not. How did she get there? I know where she came from. We went to elementary together. She made D's and F's. And now she's sitting on executive board. Really? Well, guess what? Somebody saw something in her. And so my point to you today is we can be constructive or we can be deconstructive. And deconstructive only tears down the relationship of women trying to make it in the corporate world. Any questions so far or comments? Can y'all hear me okay? Yes. I'm trying to use my preaching voice today. Can I get that?
Yeah, the clicker.
I'm gonna go through it pretty quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So cultivating authenticity, this is a word that I hate.
Yeah.
Authenticity in leadership journey. You need to be self-reflective. We don't like to self-reflect on what's going on and what we've done in our lives. But when we make a mistake, we beat ourselves to death. But you do need to be self-reflective of maybe some of the mistakes or the words or the tone in which you use
gonna call you.
I'm not gonna tell her and her and her. I'm gonna tell you.
Oh. Got a virtual, you got a, oops.
My bad. I'm not gonna move. So, and lead with empathy. Have you ever had a leader that it felt like you just couldn't reach them? You had something going on in your personal life, and maybe it just felt like you could not reach them from an empathy or compassionate perspective. I'm not going to go through all these, but walk the talk. A lot of times we can talk about we're lifting up women, we're being authentic, we're to bringing our authentic selves, but are you walking that talk that you're mentioning to everyone? So there is an impact to authentic leadership. What does it do? The impacts or the importance, what it does is it increases engagement. It provides a trust between individuals, you and other individuals. It also develops a strong reputation of trust and a person that knows that they can confide in you. And also it contributes to a positive work environment. How many have a positive work environment today? Good, that's awesome. You know why I knew everybody was gonna raise their hand? Because you're here at this conference. And typically, when your work environment fosters a positive work environment, they allow you to be at places like this so you can grow and develop. What is the one thing you've learned since you've been here over this conference? One thing. Oh, who was that? Thank you. Anyone else? I love it.
All right.
Because guess what? Knowledge is power.
Yes.
And what you don't know will hurt you. Oh, I'm going to use that one. That iron can sharpen iron in any setting. Yes. We use it from a biblical perspective. I just went to an Iron Sharpens Iron conference about 3 weeks ago, and it was a women's conference that was around my church connection. But we can sharpen each other in the workplace. Can you imagine? Go with me in a world where we're all participating, bringing our positive selves, lifting up one another. Andy, I saw you, you weren't your best the other day, but I want you to know that you're awesome and your excellence comes through. We don't do that. We do the opposite. Well, she messed up. We knew it was coming. But no, we've got conferences like this is designed for us to understand the importance of helping one another. Because when you think about 5% of the CEOs in the United States, only 5% are women. Of a 55% workforce. Think about that. That's drastic. But we can help ourselves by helping one another. So we talk about the paradox of authenticity. We talk about, leaders today struggle with being authentic for various reasons. Why is that? Because we're making changes frequently, emerging. I was talking to Xavier earlier today, and he was talking about how he can come in and he'll be all, it's because of the work environment. But that doesn't mean that if I say something to you and you know me and it doesn't set well with you, it doesn't mean that I'm upset with you. It means that the work itself or the job or the task that's in front of me is so, it's inundating my brain and my mind and my emotions. Because at the end of the day, we are females, so what are we? We are emotional creatures. And we bring our emotions with us. Now, a lot of times we have to check them, but I want you to understand that when somebody says something to you, don't take it personal, because they may be just going through something. So that's kind of that paradox that we have to understand as women, that we're going to face that. When a woman is going through all these different things, cycles and pregnancy and this and that and the other, all those are factors that contribute to our state on one day to another, or even 1 hour to the next hour. Does that make sense? Our identities are always on display. I'm going to say this. Stop measuring yourself by social media.
All right.
Social media will tell you that you need to be 5'8", 120 pounds. Your family is going to think you are sick. Child, she I don't know what's going on. She look good, but she done lost a bunch of weight, and oh, I just hope it's not cancer. Yeah. Y'all know how we do. But don't judge yourself and don't beat yourself up because you don't wear a size 2. I have more size 2 since I was 2. And it don't bother me. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to take me with me. I don't care what you think. I don't care what social media says. But in the workplace, all I care about is treating people right, performing, mentoring individuals, giving positive feedback to individuals. Now, sometimes it's constructive. It's some negative feedback because it's constructive. It's needed. But we need to stop judging ourselves by the person that's, I'm going to say, anorexic. Because I ain't never been one of those girls. I was an athlete, but I still weighed 160, 70 pounds. And my daddy was saying, what's wrong with you? Why you not eating? And I would say, Dad, I am eating. I eat very well, but I work out 3 times a day. He said, well, you need to cut one of those workouts out because I'm going to need you to gain about 20 pounds. Oh. But that's how your family will do you.
That's right. That's right.
So what can we do to find a leadership style that's authentic for us? Mine has always been servant leadership, always. I don't believe in authoritative. I believe in collaborative leadership because I believe that anything that gets done, it takes multiple people. And you can't do it by yourself. Okay? All right. Any questions to the presentation? We're going to get into the meat of it now. I had to just get that presentation out the way. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to see if you can expound a little bit more when you talk about chameleonism.
See, it's going to become a word.
I'm already putting it out there. Says it's in the marketplace now. We're going to use it when we leave. But if I wanted you to talk a little bit more about that and what it looks like when it's destructive, or is it constructive? Is it something that you can use to your advantage? Is it something that should or shouldn't be used? And I say that because in my mind, I always hear about it in a negative tone. And so I'm trying to understand more of it. But when I think about a chameleon, I think just naturally outside of the workplace, in context, that's a gift for an animal to shift colors and avoid prey. And so I also think about, is it perhaps a positive gift and skill where you can adapt to a different room? Like you said, I don't show up to work in my pajamas, but if I'm having a sleepover with my daughters, or, and they could be younger, I'm not going to come in my business, you know what I mean, kind of pajamas that I would wear and something, but I'm gonna put on like maybe a kitty type of print. You get what I'm saying?
I do.
So I'm just trying to understand about chameleonism, and is there a way that it could be positive, or is it always associated with negativity?
You hit that's a very good question, first and foremost. So let me put it in context. When I talk about chameleonism, it's this piece, the negative piece is losing yourself. So put a pin right there, and then let's go to the positive effects that you talked about. When you can be adaptable, you can be agile, you can be flexible, right? That's being morphing yourself into someone that kind of can walk in a room and people recognize you and you just fit right in. You don't like stand out, right? That's that piece. Okay. But when you lose yourself in this process and you forget who you really are, that's what I'm referring to, because then you're not being authentic. You are trying to be someone that you're really not, and then when you get home, over a period of time, you don't even recognize yourself. And so there can be some positives to it by all means. You know, you can be a person that's, hey, this person is adaptable. They're flexible. Whenever I call them, they can do X, Y, Z. They can fit into this meeting, or they can go to this event, and they can be the speaker at a moment's notice. That's fine. But it's when you are trying to fit in to be like everyone else. And it's only one of you. It's only one of me. Thank God, I know my parents are glad it was only one of me. But my point is, because when you show up as you, again, you are the missing piece that they were looking for. But if you show up as somebody else, trying to be like somebody else, you're still missing. And the piece is still missing. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank
Okay, good question. Anyone else? Before we get into the nitty-gritty?
Are we going to start the questions? So just for those of you that have the conference app, we're going to be also, and those that are joining us virtually, we'll be using Slido to be able to input questions on there. So I know that there's a few people joining us virtually, so I wanted to make sure that I address that. And then for anybody here in the audience that would like to ask a question or feedback, please use the microphone so that also people online could be able to be part of the discussion today. So now we'll open it up for any questions.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Candace McDougall. I'm from HII. My question is about code switching when it comes to authenticity. One thing that I find, and that my partner will say, do you act like that at work? Do you talk like that at work? Because I'm sure they don't understand what you're saying. And I told him, I said, no, I do code switch. And I know that code switch is kind of like a thing when it comes to diversity and inclusion, and some say don't do it because you're not bringing your whole self to work and you're dumbing you're kind of hiding yourself from fear of being judged. But then I say I code switch because I want to be understood, right? And sometimes it's easier to code switch so that I don't have to feel like I'm translating, especially with African American vernacular. I find that there are certain words that just don't make sense to others when I may have said it to my African American friends. And so what are your tools that you may use when it comes to code switching? And I hope I'm translating or giving saying this correct.
So I'm going to tell you that I've never heard of the term code switching. And I will tell you, though, that I sometimes encounter some of that with not just my husband, but other males that I work with. Because it seems to me, for me, and I've said to my husband before, and to people that I work with, my girlfriends, the women that I'm around, they all seem to understand. And I said, so let me then just break it down for you so that you understand it. I said, because I have no problem in communicating with other females. So there seems to be a problem here. So let's figure out how we can work through what we are trying to work through. I had a coworker who I'm a person that I apologize a lot. And because I'm a very compassionate person, and I learned a long time ago, it doesn't take anything away from me to say I'm sorry or I apologize. And I had a peer manager say to me, stop doing that. I said, no, I'm not. This is who I am. And if you have a problem with it, then I'm sorry. So that's how and again, it's the first I've ever heard of the terminology, code switching.
So Candace, one of the things, and you're right, the vernacular in the African American community is very different. And it's no different from any other culture,
That's
right? Every culture has its set of vernacular that you use at home as opposed to at work. But I will tell you is that when you walked in earlier and you and I were talking, I just got off the phone with my best friend. Well, of course, my sister girl personality was a little different toward her than when I saw you. I said, hey, good morning, how are you, Candace? But for her, it was, girl, what you doing? What's going on? You know, and so there is nothing wrong with that, with this term code switching, because that's just, and you're not losing yourself. This is one of those times where I think you are being authentic in the place where you are. Now that might be, I'm talking out of two sides of my mouth, and I only have one. But you're being authentic in the place where you are. And so therefore, you are communicating in a manner that is appropriate based on where you are. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My question is, how do you remain true to your authentic self? You know, when on your position, you're going through a struggle. And the struggle really was kind of related to an organizational change. Like when you first started, you know, this was going to be the leader, this is going to be the boss, and this is going to be the direction. But then shortly thereafter, there was a change in leadership. And all of a sudden now, you know, you're struggling to produce and to perform some of the things that they want. So the question is, how do you be true to your authentic self in that scenario?
So I'm going to give you an example of something that actually happened to me. I took a first-line manager's job with IBM 20 years ago, and I moved from Raleigh, North Carolina to Tucson, Arizona. And the environment was a lot different in Tucson than it was in Raleigh. But then within 2 years, I got promoted to a middle manager. And I transitioned 17 years ago to the Poughkeepsie, New York area, which I am originally from New Jersey, so I wanted to get a little bit closer to family. But in the course of me becoming a middle manager, I got hired by one person, and then another manager came in and took his place within 2 months. Then somebody else came in and took his place within a few months. And I said to my management, I look out for my people. Who's looking out for me? I said, I came into this job with an understanding that this would be then the next steps that I would be taking, and now I find myself with 3 different managers who know nothing about me and aren't looking out for me. And so, in my case, I decided that I was going to look for something else to do. And I reached out to some mentors and coaches and said, here's where I am. I said, I'm going to give it my very best whilst I'm still here. And they'd given me a major project to work on. And I pulled in the right people to get it done. And then I said, and I'm out. And I made the decision, though I was on this particular path, for my health and for the best for me, it was best for me to go in this direction. And I ended up leaving that organization and going and taking a role with a client in a very high-focused account that led to me then ultimately getting that next position that I thought I was going to get where I was. But I was like, wait a minute. I look out for my team. I understand what my people want. I'm working and helping to grow them. And now I've had 3 managers, and within 6 months. But that's the approach I took. And it just depends on you, kind of, and the path that you take. But I've been there. I mean, and not just once. That's happened several times. And it's like, what in the world?
So I'll piggyback off of Patricia. About a year and a half ago, no, let me say 18 months ago, I was on my way. I had a meeting with the CFO of our entity, and him and I have known each other for probably 12, 13 years. And at the time, I was the director of talent management. And so I had the hiring responsibilities, requisitions, all of that, learning and development. But he called me over. He set up a meeting with me because I was working a requisition for him for a director's position. And I said, hey, here's the information. If you want to make any changes, let me know. And he said, I think we're good. He said, this is exactly what I wanted. So he had an hour schedule, an hour block. And conversation lasted about 10 minutes. I said, well, I'm going to give you 50 minutes back. And he said, no, I really need to talk to you about something. I said, okay. He said, well, I'm thinking, I want to bounce something off of you. And I said, what's that? He said, well, I'm thinking of a director position of starting an organization called Business Integration. It's okay. He gave me all the, technical tenets of it, how he wanted it laid out. I said, well, I tell you what, I'll write up a requisition based on what you told me, and I'll send it over to you. Let me know when you want me to post it. And he was like, that's not what I wanted to hear. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, I was thinking of you. I wanted you to start this organization. So where I'm going with this is, change is inevitable, right? And I say that to say you kind of have, in this authentic and being your true self, you kind of have to be able to make some of these swings. They're pendulums. And I'm going to steal something from Jennifer Boykin yesterday, the seesaw of, she talked about the work-life balance, but this seesaw of work of where it's change on one side, change on the other side, and it's up and down, you're going to get that. Because I'm going to tell you today, 18 months later, Business Integration is the most talked about organization in the Ingalls division of HII. And I say that when we adapt to change and when we take it from a standpoint of a positive change, even if they meant it for whatever reason, even if in your mind or in your spirit you think, this is really not for me, God gave you a brain. And I always tell God, thank you for the brain you gave me. Because you gave me one that's adaptable. You gave me one that I feel like I'm intelligent. I feel like I can go anywhere and have a conversation with anyone at any time. I will give you an example. My best friend, we were on a trip in Dallas, and I was asleep. And somebody called me at 6:30 in the morning, and she said, this is what you did. Good morning, how can I help you? She said, Sandia, how is it that you can switch so quickly? You were asleep. Good morning, how can I help you? This is Sandia speaking. And I gave the answer, was on the phone for 10 minutes. She said, you laid your phone down, turned the light off, and went back to sleep. So we are very adaptable people. Women, listen to me. You can do anything. The problem is, some people don't want you to know that you can do anything. Does that help?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I think she has a question.
Yeah. Next person here.
Hi, I'm Lorena Skelly. I work for Abbott, and my question is about self-awareness. So I've always kind of prided myself as being, sorry, I've got a cold, so I'm sounding kind of funky. I've kind of prided myself as being that servant leader or the collaborative leader. And I joined the organization, and I have a couple people on my team that are just not performing. And the feedback that I've gotten from them is not, yes, I acknowledge I'm not performing, and thank you for the feedback, and I'll start working on it. It's been more, you are biased against me. You don't understand me. You're not listening, and it's really challenging for me because it's making me kind of think, what am I not seeing in myself? How do I get that self-awareness to really understand, how to be that person that I think I am in those situations where it's a very, very challenging, performance-based challenge.
Yeah, that's a really great kind of question and feedback. I think Sandhya mentioned a little bit about it earlier as far as just that self-reflection is so key.
Yeah.
Just understanding who we are, but then also checking ourselves, because oftentimes we can't change other people's perception. And as long as we know that what we're doing is in the best interest of those that are working with us, I think it's just a matter of that communication, making sure that we're clear as far as providing that constructive feedback. But I often think that we have to look at it in both ways. How are they receiving information? How are you sharing that information? And if you feel confident in what you're doing, then stick with it.
And I'll also add to that is when you're giving them the information and the instruction and setting the expectations, the key is the clearness of the communication. Because you may, and we did this in Communication 101, right? We all had it. Okay, I'm a sender and there's a receiver. But you need to verify that the receiver understood it the way that you meant it, right? And the other thing is, don't let individuals who are not performing switch the conversation to you. Because if you go back in time prior to you, you're probably going to find that they weren't performing then. And so now that you have come to this place of leadership where you're leading this group of individuals, now it's all of a sudden they're not performing, but it's my boss's fault. So now you just need to remove all the excuses, be comfortable in what you're doing, set the expectations, follow up, ask questions. Did you understand? What was your name again?
Lorena.
Larea?
Lorena.
Okay. Did you understand what I just said? Are we clear? Okay. And that's how sometimes it's just that simple. You gotta look at each individual and say, are you clear? And then that's it.
Now, can I just add one thing? I would also then follow up with an email to make sure that, per our discussion, here are the things that I need you to work on, and then I used to set up checkpoints. So I'd say, okay, we're gonna meet in 2 weeks, and I need you to give me an update on what you've done to address this particular situation, right? And, and if you say to me, I'd say, be candid with me. Do you not understand? Do you need somebody to coach you on it?
Right.
Is there something that you need that is not enabling you to get this?
Right.
And likewise, I had to exit somebody out of the company, and the first thing he said to me was, you said that as a manager that you're strong in the faith as a Christian, and therefore you'll never do anything against your belief. And I said, hold up, this is not against my belief.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is business, okay? Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, when we looked at and I did a ranking, you were the lower performer. And as a result, I have to release you.
Yeah.
You know, but don't you dare ever question who I am and my faith, because I've done and I have compassion for people, and I'm always going to look out for people. But God doesn't expect me to allow somebody to just get over either.
Yeah.
And there are consequences for actions. And, you know, and the teacher in me comes out too. So, you know, I taught second and third graders before I came to IBM. So those are the kind of conversations that I have with my team.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorena. Next question.
Good morning. I'm Kalia Brown with HII. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but my question is, how do you go from being peers with people to leading them and keeping your authentic self? So being your authentic self, they might have known you as like the jokester or something like that. Not saying I'm a jokester, but you know. They might have known you a certain way, and then you have to go into this leadership role teaching those same peers. And how do you just kind of stay to your true to yourself when they know you, kind of?
Well, I'm going to say this. When I worked for UPS, one of the things that they really were diligent about and intentional about is not promoting individuals in the area in which they came out of. For instance, when I was promoted from a billing supervisor, when I was a billing person, I wasn't promoted to a billing supervisor. I went to accounting, general accounting. And then I came back to billing because that was where they wanted me to be, because we had a gap. So I say that to say a lot of times that's the hardest shift to make, because I liken it to, you get the notification on a Friday that you're going to be leading your friends and your previous coworkers on a Monday. But what you have to understand is that you kind of have to put that in the back of your head, all the things that happened the Friday and before, and understand that now you are a leader. And you lead the people. You set the expectations for the individuals. And you don't let them tell you what we used to do.
Right.
Because that statement will tear you apart. It will ruin your career. What you have to understand is you have to set the expectations, let them know by leading them with example, by showing up, being present, being the professional that you are, and forgetting about what occurred prior to that. That is the hardest assignment when you are leading people that you used to hang out with at lunch, that you used to go to the club with or whatever. I don't know. I'm not throwing that out there with you, but I'm just telling you that's what happens.
Right.
But now you have to kind of code switch and be a leader. And you have it in you.
Isn't that kind of being a chameleon?
It's no, because see, think about it. This is not temporary for you. This is a path. The chameleon is a temporary thing. You plan on changing from you want to go back to an individual contributor next week? Okay. You're a leader. Lead. Lead with respect, compassion, dignity, and most of all, listen. Thank you.
Okay, I have another question, just popped up as you said that. How do you lead a team when you may be younger and a lot of the people who you're leading are a lot older than you? Or not necessarily saying a lot older, but like you're younger, so
They're
sometimes
like 10
it's like a
years
respect.
older than you, huh?
I feel like sometimes people don't respect people as much when they're, younger, like when their leader is younger than them. So I've experienced that a couple of times as well. How do you handle that?
So,
Or either of you.
okay, so I've had that scenario happen. So 20 years ago, and I'm proud and grateful to be the age of 63 years old. But 20 years ago, at the age of 43, I went into a development organization in Tucson, Arizona, where I was a young manager relative to a lot of the people that that ended up the team working for me. And so sometimes somebody would say, oh, you're just a kid. And so one day I pulled them into my office and we had a quite candid conversation. And I said, I am here to make a difference and make you the very best IBM person you can be. And whatever your dream is, I'm here to help you. And I would appreciate it, though I'm not as old as you are, I would appreciate if you would respect me and not call me a kid, because I'm not. But I will do my very best to do whatever I can to help you. And along the way, I had some people that basically didn't want to move anymore, didn't want to do anything else. But then, again, the teacher in me said, what is it you like to do? So when you leave IBM, that's a good skill that you could take and you could do something else with. And so they were like, wow, Patty, Patricia, I hadn't even thought about that. And so then they realized, after they got to know me, they realized, though I'm young, though I'm only 43 and you're 60-something, I'm not a kid. And I really am here to try to make a difference. And I said, that's why I became a manager. I came here to make a difference. And so that's the approach that I've taken with my teams. You know, I'm not a kid. Don't call me a kid. I'm not a kid. I'm not going to, you know, sometimes I want to stomp my foot and say, oh, I'm a kid. Okay, wrong thing to do, right? But, you know, I'm not a kid. No, I'm not as old as you are. Yes, you have a lot more experience, but I also bring experience to the table. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to add real quickly there, you know, just that vulnerability of being open and transparent and understanding where they come from. I had the same experience, you know, 16 years ago. I was, you know, right out of college, I got a management position with individuals that were close to 60, 65. So I'm a dietitian by trade. And so when I went into that establishment, you know, I noticed that lack of respect. And when I, you know, first got introduced to the team, that's the one thing that I asked, you know, let's find that common ground. Let's just respect each other. Mm-hmm. And just by saying that, it's so interesting how it changed the dynamics of the room, because we all want to be respected. We all want to feel like we belong. And so just that level setting really helped me. It was not easy. There's still a lot of challenges, you know, that were being said behind my back, but just trying to open up that, you know, kind of common ground really helped me, help them, right, be their best self, but then also me understand too where they were coming from. So I hope that helps, but that vulnerability is so key as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good morning, leaders.
Good morning.
I'm going to choose that word intentionally, not women, but leaders, because each of you are leaders. I'm going to ask you, you talked a lot today about being introspective, about being courageous, about not having self-limiting ideas. I'm going to invite each of you to think about a time when you had a male leader that gave destructive feedback or created a destructive or toxic work environment. And go back into that moment and share with me as a male leader some advice you would give to that leader so that they will change that behavior and not create that environment in the future.
So can I, so I'm gonna go way back.
Let's go.
This was at UPS as well. This is my first job, Fortune 500 company. I was a revenue auditor. I just finished school. And the first supervisor that I had got sick. And he was put in the hospital and he went on disability. And so 6 months later, I received another boss, an African-American male. And I'm going to be really, really candid here, okay? Because it's something that I think you brought this up. You brought it to our door. We're going to go ahead and share it. And I haven't visited this in so many years. But he came in one night because we worked from 5 in the evening until 1 o'clock in the morning. Because what we were doing, it was the hub. So you have about 20 to 30,000 packages that are coming through the hub. So our job was to ensure that if you said your package was 3 pounds, that it was 3 pounds. Because we were revenue auditors that was doing a buyback of revenue every night because people would not put the right weight on their packages. So he came through and he said, why are you standing there? I said, well, I'm waiting on the packages. They're getting ready to start the shift. Shift started at 5:15. Well, I'm gonna just need you to not have your big ass in the way. Wow. I told you brought it to the door. And I said, excuse me? And I'm 26 years old. And I'm thinking to myself, this man has lost his mind. And I wasn't saved then. But I'm at work. So I said, excuse me? And he repeated it. And I said, sir, that is highly inappropriate. Well, first and foremost, I hold your future in my hands. I said, no, you do not. I said, but I tell you what, my daddy always told me that everybody has a boss. And so I went, I stayed, I was at work until 3 o'clock that morning, writing my report. Needless to say, he was fired. But the stench of that, because he was a 31-year employee. And the backlash of that was I was a kid, just got out of college, just trying to make, a living at this point. So what would I say to that gentleman? Obviously, your mind was in the wrong place. Because see, you obviously looking at some body parts or something, but I'm here to do a job. And I would say that to women, you do not have to put up with any of that. Now, granted, yours may not be as blatant as mine was, but know that you belong where you are and that your worth is far greater than the job that you're doing.
Hey, thanks for sharing that, Sondia. And public service announcement, HII would not tolerate this behavior.
And you're right.
So when I mentioned before about changing managers, the second one after becoming a middle manager was that kind of person. He would scream and yell at me. And so I had to, first of all, reflect, and then I also needed to try to understand where he was actually coming from. And I realized for him, and he was African American, but he happened to also be from an island. And so I realized that the way in which he talked to his wife, his daughter, his family, he was a yeller. He yelled. And so I called him up one day, and I said, we need to have a conversation. And I said, you cannot, I will not, I don't tolerate anyone yelling at me. I understand that you get hyper. I understand the urgency of what we've got going on, but I'm telling you, do not ever raise your voice to me again. And he said, but Patty, I don't mean anything by it. Okay, but I'm telling you, do not raise your voice at me again. And from that day forward, he could yell at whoever he wanted to, but you're not yelling at me. And then they eventually moved him on and out. Good. But I don't tolerate that from anyone, family
Being
included.
intolerant of the behavior and having the courage to say something.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Andy?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest piece is the courage. So I had a very similar situation that first job out of college, I should have known that there was already some red flags. So when I applied for this position, you know, I was already licensed, and when I came into the position, I was applying actually for 2 positions, so it'll give you some background on that. And when I applied, you know, one of the things that he mentioned, and he was the CEO of that organization actually, so I would be reporting directly with him. He was like, "Oh, you speak Spanish. You'll be great at the kitchen." And you know, it was so interesting because at that time I was so young. You know, I was out of college. I was like looking for that, you know, opportunity. A lot of my classmates were struggling to find a job. And, you know, again, I should have known, right? And I think that, you know, just my background, first generation, I thought, oh my gosh, like I cannot lose this opportunity. It was a management role. I'm like, I gotta take this. And I try to see the silver lining on it. I said, you know what? Yeah, I do speak Spanish, so I'll be able to connect with my employees. I offer a skill, right, that maybe is not being met. I represent less than 6% of my profession as a registered dietitian. So I said, yeah, I want to go in and I want to help. But then the yelling came about. There's just, you know, some toxic behavior. And I remember saying, you know what, you know, I setting up a meeting with him, providing my feedback, right? Like, because he would, you know, when he would walk into, I was running 2 kitchens, you know, he'd come into the kitchen, start yelling me, even in front of my employees. Until one time I just put my foot down and I said, excuse me, that's unacceptable. Can we have a discussion? You know, I had to do that in front of my employees because I needed them to see also that that behavior was not tolerable for any human being, whether I was a manager or just an employee. And I'm like, if I don't put my foot down, those behind me are going to experience the same behavior.
That's right.
Yes.
Exactly.
And it was so interesting because when you know, and he was so shocked. You should have seen his face. He was just like, wait, what? You know, I mean, somebody that's like, you know, I was in my early 20s. He must have been like maybe mid 50s, maybe close to 60. So we walked to that room, and as I was walking, I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? You know, I'm going to lose my job. What am I going to tell my parents? You know, I mean, you know, all these things started coming to my head, you know. And so when I walked in, I said, you know, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, you are not respecting me. I've been respecting you as an individual, you know, all this time. And I just started, honestly, I was rambling, you know, I just, things were coming out. I was, you know, just like, you know, probably not the best way, but just trying to get my point out, trying to justify my actions. Anyways, long story short, he says, nobody has ever told me that before.
Wow.
And I don't know if he meant it, you know, I really don't. It seemed genuine at that time. It really did. But at that same moment, I realized that that environment was not where I needed to be. And so 2 weeks later, I did put my resignation because even though we had that honest conversation, you know, just, you know, he wanted to provide a plan. He started to make some, you know, drastic changes to the organization. I knew it was my time to step out.
Yep.
And again, you know, that was my experience, you know. Now, Andy, 16 years later, probably could have done things a little bit different. You know, I probably maybe wouldn't have stormed out and probably would have had maybe more of a constructive feedback conversation. But I really think that when you're in situations like that, you need to take it as an opportunity, as a teaching moment.
That's right.
And I think yesterday's session, too, in the evening, we talked about just understanding the battles we want to fight.
Yes.
And at that moment, I felt that I was fighting that battle not just for myself, but for my team.
Yeah.
Good, good. Thank you all for the vulnerability and sharing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Tony Arnold, and I'm with HII. So I have a question, I guess a statement rather, that has to go into when they created a position for you as director. So for me, my background was Navy, and then I was in Air Force. And once I got out of the military, I came to HII. I came through the shipyard. And it was told to me that they hired me because they created a specific position because of my military background. So I was like, hey, I've been on the flight deck all this time. I'm all in. I know this information. I don't have to have any confidence. I can get out there and do it, and I'm always the only female, which is fine. And then after that, something happened in my previous department, which wasn't bad, but they wanted me to move up and move to a different department, and they created another position for me. Again, I don't know nothing in this department. I don't know nothing about the position. At first, I had to get out of my head with the imposter syndrome, like, hey, they moved you up, which is a good thing. They must see something in you in this new department. But now they're talking about moving me again up to create another position that I never heard of. So my question is, how do you get outside of your head, not just saying, not saying that you are uncomfortable knowing that you need this position, but how do you basically settle into the position once you know, hey, I'm here for a reason? And it's not just lateral. Every department is different, so this department must see me in my other 2 departments, and they want me to bring that as well.
So are you managing people?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing that you have to know is someone is seeing some qualities, great qualities in you. They are utilizing the fact that you have experience, that you have what appears to be a breadth of experience. And so take that for what it is. And it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to get out of your comfort zone, because it's in your comfort zone that you will thrive the most. The things when you talked about when you first came to the company, you had a job and you was like, oh, okay, I know the terms, I know. Okay, that was a familiar place for you. Now you will stretch yourself out mentally, emotionally, and knowledge-wise to adapt to this current role. And the sky is the limit. And somebody's watching you, and someone is tapping you on the shoulder. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
There's probably 90% of the people in this room would love to have that problem. So embrace it. Ask questions. The people that you're leading, get to know them individually. Get to understand what they do. Get information. Questions and listening is the best asset that you can bring to a new position. You can ask the right questions, but first you have to listen to what they do. Find out what they do. Have them send you kind of a layout of a high level what they do. Then start making your notes to ask questions about, the details of it. And you'll be surprised that in 6 months, you'll be like, what was I worried about?
Right.
But don't go into it afraid.
That's right.
You were chosen for that position. You were selected for that position. So just keep going up the ladder. And keep a circle of friends, of relationships around you. Build those relationships with individuals, particularly women. And I'm going to say that because they know the emotional side of you. And so if you have women, you have a strong, network or cohort of women, you can ask them some questions as well. Does that help?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jamie Giles. I'm also with HII. So my question kind of mirrors Xavier's question, but on the flip side of that. So being a woman in a male-dominated space, and oftentimes maybe the only woman of color in that space, how have you dealt with other women that are creating maybe a toxic environment? How do you deal with leaders, women leaders that maybe feel like they have to be a part of that boys club? Their code switching is more so on the gender side, where they feel that they have to conform to fit in with something they feel in a male-dominated environment. How do you deal with that toxic female leader?
So I had a scenario where, and I think somebody said, I think, Sanda, when you were talking about, why her, not me, I had a scenario that happened. She happened to be a Caucasian female, and I was the only African-American female on the team, and I had gotten selected to do something, and our manager was also a Caucasian female, and I went to update my manager on what I had been selected to do, and she told that individual about it. And the individual comes to me and literally says, how come you got selected and not me? And I said, you go back and talk to management about why I got selected and you not. I'm not going to entertain this conversation as it pertains to what I'm going to be doing in this project that I got pulled in to do. I said, you go back and talk to management. And I said, you have the same equal opportunity as I do. I said, you do things, and I really don't care what you do. And I don't even worry about what you do. I said, but you really need to go back and have a conversation with management about that. And then she would do other little things, and it got to the point where I chose to ignore her. I did. I chose to not allow, because I kind of, people know how to push your buttons, and I felt like she was, in every meeting and every opportunity, she would be a little snippet about something. Oh, really, Patty? Oh, really, Patty? And I was like, instead of going, oh, really, Dawn? I said, and the men, right, were looking like, and I'm like, I'm going to rise above this. I'm just going to ignore you. And you are not going to have that kind of control over me because you're just a nuisance. And I'm not going to allow you to do that to me. And eventually, it got to the point where I could care less what she was doing, what she was saying, and I just ignored her. Then that's how I handled it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So I think, any more questions? And I didn't see any coming in from Slido. So we just want to say thank you, everyone that joined us this morning for today's session. Thank you to our wonderful speakers here that were able to share the vulnerability piece, because some of these questions I had never been asked before, but I think it's really important as we continue to empower one another, that we build, our own individual toolkits and that courage so that we can continue to move forward and be the best versions of ourselves. So again, I just want to say thank you. We also want to remind everyone that if you, in attending today's session, that you fill out the survey. So please do that. I know that we have the opportunity to provide feedback, and I know that our speakers today would be, open to that feedback as well, so that, we can use that moving forward. And then I think that is it. Just make sure that if you didn't already scan your badge when entering, that you make sure that you do that at the door. But again, just thank you everyone for joining us this morning.
From you, I tell you what, I do. I learned so much from you.
Embarking on a journey, a story we weave. Women in STEM, everything we achieve. A minority, yet our worth is vast. Contributions tremendous, forever to last. Our days before us, each a vital part. Pieces of a puzzle, a work of art. Perseverance, innovation is their tale. A picture of triumph beyond the veil. Diversity strength, stories of grace passing the torch. We light our space. Transformative impact, women stand strong, creating a world where we all belong. A torch that's passed and a flame that's strong, from those who've paved the way, now are gone. To those who follow the colors that blend, excellence, hard work, a legacy to send. Determination's fire burning within,
knowledge shared, a gift to begin. Diversity strength, stories of grace, passing the torch. We light our space, transformative impact. Women stand strong, creating a world where we all belong. We're dreaming bigger and learning more. Boundaries breaking like waves on the shore. Guided by those who have shown us the way. A legacy of wisdom and courage display. Diversity strength, stories of grace, passing the torch. We light our space, transformative impact. Women stand strong, creating a world where we all belong. Strides for diversity, a path we pave. Innovation blooms and gardens gave. Equality's flag we do boldly raise. Fulfilling dreams in our own special ways. We are leaders in all businesses too. We add true value, equality with you. In leadership, we will take our stand for progress and unity across the land. A tapestry woven, colors diverse, promoting inclusion as spirits immerse. In education's halls, knowledge expands and promotions rise with diverse hands. Businesses bloom as our visions take hold. Community thrives while stories unfold. Transformative power, diversity is grace, uniting us all in a hopeful embrace. In leadership, we will take our stand for progress and unity across the land. A tapestry woven, colors diverse, promoting inclusion as spirits immerse. Numerous firsts, a trailblazer's trail, in an illustrious career where dreams set sail. Innovation's partner, equality's guide. With gratitude and respect, let your spirit ride. In leadership, we will take our stand for progress and unity across the land. A tapestry woven, colors diverse, promoting inclusion as spirits immerse. Tapestry woven, colors diverse, promoting inclusion as spirits immerse. Our spirits immerse, promoting inclusion as spirits immerse.
In these times, it's clear to see our strength lies in community. collective efforts, hands held tight, shaping